This is the edge of the patio, minus the border. Still gotta send that around. Got the fire pit unwrapped. The fire pit is basically gonna be half in the patio and half in the gravel area. Don't know the manufacturer of this. This is just a basic stainless steel insert. But the fire pit, made by Techo Bloc, Valencia Fire Pit. No sleeve means it's just the block. Shale Grey, 80 pieces. And those 80 pieces give you 5 rows of block. They're 3 inches high, so 15 inches. But I usually bury the first block about, half of that, so 1.5 inches, 2 inches. So it's gonna be like 13 inches high, the fire pit. Basically what I do is lay out the first row exactly where I want it. And I'm just gonna find the center point on the patio and the gravel, and then just put it right where I want it to be. And we're gonna have some cuts to do on these pavers. So if you're watching this as a how-to, you may be building your fire pit not within a paver patio. It may just be out in the open, so you don't even have to go through all this cutting. But a lot of people also try to include their fire pit into their patio. So what I like to do, whether I'm only doing half of it or the full thing, is lay out the first row of block, mark around it with a little bit of space. You need a gap for joint sand and to make sure the blocks will fit. And then you're going to go over it and trace it with your concrete cutoff saw. Trace that line to make like a score mark. And then you're going to remove everything, get it out of your way, and do your full cuts using water to help the blade stay as cool as possible and prevent dust. But there's a lot of cutting on this tight of a radius, so you have to basically etch the paver away. You're not going to be able to do it in just one straight cut. You kind of got to take it off chunk by chunk and then like form those cuts with the edge of your blade, like holding it at an angle. So there's a lot of time that goes into including the fire pit into pavers, but this is basically what you have to do to make the cuts. I have a couple other videos on my channel of actually putting a fire pit like this into a patio completely. So if you want to see how to make a full circle, I'll put a couple links in the description below, and you can go check those out as well. But if you're watching this and you don't have to include it into the pavers, basically what you need to know is to wherever you're going to be installing it, you need to dig out about 6 to 10 inches below the top of grade and backfill it with clean 3/4 inch crushed stone to allow for drainage. You can put fabric or not put fabric. I always recommend it, but with a fire pit, if it's just in the middle of the yard, it's really not a huge deal. But you want to dig down and backfill that stone in a couple lifts and get your base level, and you want to compact the top of it again and make sure it's good. And then you're going to basically lay out your entire first row of block, and while you're laying that row of block out, you're going to have to just shift it around, whether it's a circle fire pit or a square or a rectangle. It's got to be dry laid and then just kind of tweaked into the exact position where it needs to be. And the base prep and everything is the same for any style fire pit, concrete block fire pit. It can be applied to any of them. I usually do a lot of circles, but I also like doing squares and rectangles. But this fire pit in general, the Techo Bloc Valencia Fire Pit, is very popular and a really good choice because it's just solid block. They're small, but it ends up being a solid fire pit once you put it all together. And they have nice vents for this, as you're going to see a little bit further in the video, which helps a lot with airflow. So that's why this actual fire pit I use a lot. It's just kind of one of those things when you use something and it looks really good, it sells a lot. But anyway, you do the base prep really good and get it as close as possible so that when you go to hammer these blocks into place and make them perfectly level, there's not too much adjusting that you're going to have to do. That is the first time I ever did that, but it worked great. I don't know why I never thought about it before, honestly. But you line all the backs up, and you can make a nice straight line and the edges down. If you saw in the time lapse, I had to pick some up and chisel them. That's why. Sometimes you have a part that sticks out further than the block next to it, so you got to chisel it to make them meet up nice. So I'm going to put concrete adhesive on top of those blocks and lay this next row down. That's perfectly level, all sides. This is the glue I use, Loctite PL500 landscape construction adhesive. Great for block, brick and stone. Yeah, I've been using that glue for a while now, and it's just been a solid product for me. And what's nice about it is you can get it at any Home Depot, so if I ever need it, I can get it. It's pretty available in a lot of areas. And if you're thinking about doing this exact fire pit, I've found that if you end up buying the smaller tubes of glue, I use a bigger one. The small tubes, you're going to need 4 of them because you basically use one full small tube on every row. There's 5 rows, but you're only gluing 4 of them. So you would need 4 small tubes, or you could buy a couple bigger ones just to be safe. But no matter what kind of concrete block fire pit you're building, I always recommend using the adhesive, because if not, the blocks can just get kicked over really easy, get shifted. The glue really turns that entire fire pit into one solid piece. So it's worth the extra time and money on materials. Alright, we're ready for another row, which is the 3rd row, which is the halfway of the fire pit. There's 5 rows, so I'll show you this vent right here. Made exactly for this reason, to fit in with this fire pit. It takes the place of a block. Same width, same height. So we're going to be putting 2 of them, and I'm going to put them one on this side and one on the other, so it kind of is going right down the center of the patio. And that's going to allow some airflow behind that insert and through all those pre-drilled holes of the insert. And that's just going to allow the fire pit to breathe a little. I really like that insert because it has those holes. If you get a basic metal one, sometimes it's just painted steel and there's no like breathing vents around it. So even putting a vent in like that with an insert like that, if it's all packed in, kind of doesn't really help much. But either way, that's the plan. 2 vents and then 2 rows on top of that, and insert. Fire pit's done. Like I mentioned, this is just a basic stainless steel insert. There's so many different inserts you can buy. Basically every concrete block fire pit is designed around a pretty common size on the interior, which fits a lot of different inserts. If you go on Amazon, you'll find a ton. If you go to different landscape supply yards, you'll find a bunch of different options. Online, there's a lot of really like high-end insert companies like Breo, B-R-E-E-O. They have a lot of high-end ones with like grill inserts and like rotisseries and smokeless. There's just a lot of options to go with. You could buy a really cheap one that's just painted steel, no vent holes or anything, and then you could drill them yourself. There's a lot of ways you can go. Some people don't use the fire pits rarely at all, so they just don't even buy an insert, which you can do, because if you're not having like crazy fires, you can end up just having it inside the block. Just know that down the road there's a possibility of a block or a couple blocks cracking if you end up having a lot of hot fires. That's the thing about having a steel insert, is it protects the block and it ensures a longer life of your fire pit, which is something you always want when you're putting a lot of money into a investment in your backyard, And like I said, if you really want to get fancy and start being able to cook like steaks or something on the grill, you can do some research and find some really cool inserts that will fit whatever type block fire pit you buy, whether it's rectangle, square, circle. No matter the manufacturer, they're very universal and they fit a majority of block fire pits.
Look at that.
Patio's a little wet still, but makes it look weird on the camera.
With the grout, you mean?
Yeah, well, no, just like some of the pavers being wet.
Oh yeah. Looks sharp though.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Very nice job. Very nice.
There's 2 vents a vent on each side, and then the insert has holes in it.
Yep, see that.
Kind of get some airflow.
Yeah, that's nice. Hey, what's this, take yellow again? Yeah.
So building a block fire pit like this is not very difficult. You just want to make sure you do all the steps the correct way. Make sure you do good base prep, get everything level, and then when you set that first row of block, make sure those are as perfect as can be, and make sure you use concrete adhesive. That'll lock everything together. The vents you may have to get creative with, and the insert you may have to do some research about. But if you do these same steps that I did building this one with your concrete block fire pit, I'm sure it's going to end up good. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, till the next one, God bless, peace.